Look, it's okay anyway. Everybody calm down. It's fine. Spying from China to Britain is non-existent. It's all fine.
It has, and China's response to this, I would say, is pretty directly out of a playbook that is now quite familiar when it's faced with this sort
What?
of
A playbook like you're playing a game that's quite familiar. What? Like the MI5 or MI6 doesn't come out the same playbook, and the CIA doesn't come out the same playbook, and us on and on and on, and the Five Eyes.
accusations. It hadn't said anything this morning. This afternoon, myself and many other journalists went down to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where we...
Well, I have to say, journalist is an extremely loose term nowadays, isn't it? Extremely loose. It seems like journalism and pastyism are basically the same thing.
do have a chance to put questions directly to a spokesperson from the government. Spokesperson Mao Ning addressed the...
Mao Ning said, no way. We don't spy ever. No, no. Do you reckon she sounded like that? I could do a perfect Chinese impression. Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm going to do a perfect in Chinese impression of I'm already going to be racist probably, but I can say her name was Minling. Was it Minling?
Spokesperson Mao Ning addressed the...
Mao Ning. Oh, Mao Ning. Okay. Mao Ning, everybody. How are you? This isn't my Chinese impression. Mao Ning. Mao Ning, how are you? No, that's not my Chinese. Here we go. Here we go. Hello. I am from China. And I am very into chopsticks. What do you think? Do you think I did well? Do you think I did well? Do you think I got close? I bet you I got close. You like the Chinese accent. I could be a Chinese spy. I go over. Hello, I am from China, and I like Jamaican music. Oh no, it's gone even worse. Oh my God, that's so racist. Jamaicans and Chinese. Have you ever seen a Jamaican next to a Chinese person? Have you ever? A Jamaican person, someone from Jamaica, standing next to someone from China. Have you ever seen that? Don't think so.
These allegations pretty directly, pretty tersely. Have a listen to what she had to say.
Oh, I'm so glad that I can hear what she has to say. It's all I can hear in the background there. But she's about to say it. This is Moaning. Moaning, everybody. Moaning. Moaning. How are you today? Moaning. This is Moaning. Moaning. Moaning is a Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson. Not foreign minister. They haven't sent out their foreign minister to quash these claims. There's no point.
So-called China's espionage activity in the UK is non-existent. China resolutely opposed this. We urge the UK side to stop spreading false information.
Ooh, you hear this? We urge the UK side to stop spreading false information. And this is out of the playbook, of course. And no, it's not like it would be any different the other way around, is it?
And it's anti-China political manipulation and malicious deframing of China. Next question, please.
Ooh, defaming.
So as you have...
So there was a long pause there. There was a long pause. Now, come on, let's wait for that pause.
So...
Oh, that was a long pause. I don't think that was professional. Like, let's fill up with some music.
So as you heard there, malicious rumours apparently. Again, this is really straight out of the playbook, whereby it's straight, hard denial with a bit of an accusation. This is all part of a ploy to make China look bad. There were actually some follow-up questions as well, not least about asking some more detail about what was said between Rishi Sunak and Li Chung, the Premier.
The Premier, Li Chung, isn't he one of the fighters in Street Fighter?
Of China at that meeting at the G20 yesterday, and Mao Ning said
simply
that they discussed issues that were of mutual importance to both countries, again urging Britain to behave in a way that was, quote, gonna enforce sort of mutual respect. And
yeah! Start having mutual respect, otherwise we will crush you with our enormous army. Because now, remember, Britain's located in the Pacific.
So on. Look, I think Britain faces a very difficult question now in terms of how to handle this, because there are examples in the pretty recent past of what happens if you accuse China of something and it denies it. Take the spy balloon incident, for instance, in the...
Okay, so what do you think happens? You think the Chinese deny it first, and then what?
US, where there was pretty hard evidence that balloon that the Chinese said was a weather balloon, the Americans said it was spying, was equipped with surveillance equipment, and China denied and denied, and it had a hugely negative effect on the US-China relationship. So how the UK handled...
I don't think it had actually a hugely negative effect. I think it just had a minor effect. Very minor effect.
Handles this now. It has to be very careful. If there was
these are journalists, supposed journalists, trying to bump up their importance and the importance of these discoveries. A weather balloon has forms of surveillance equipment on it because it surveils something. It surveils the weather, its position, where it's going, and the feedback to be able to communicate back the information that it's retrieving. So that's this is all silly posturing.
Any change in language, any upgrade to calling China a threat, that would have a significant impact on this relationship. And of course, remember, China remains an enormously powerful country,
yeah, it could crush us in no time whatsoever because we're hanging out in the Pacific now like crazy people.
Enormously powerful economy, one of the few countries.
And then poking the panda, and you know how pandas attack. I don't know how pandas attack.
Countries that could, for instance, exert pressure on Russia. So there is a lot at stake if that relationship is damaged.
Ooh, the relationship is been damaged a long time ago, I think, when Britain took control of the opium. Yeah, good old days, eh? Back when we were the empire and we could go around just whapping people across the face and saying, "Shut up, boy! I'm Britain now." Oh my God, look at this. It's the face of Helen. Look, he's squeezing one out. Ed Balls is squeezing out a little Yvette Cooper as we speak. And luckily, he's got his new woman next to him. I don't know what to call her because I don't know her name. I don't watch a Good Morning Britain, mainly because I'd have to watch Ed Balls. Look at that. Young global leader giving you the news. Do you believe it?
Following the arrest of two men over allegation that they spied for China, the government is under pressure now to take a stronger stance against Beijing.
A stronger stance? What type of stance? Like a horse riding stance? That would be a good stance. Or maybe a false leg stance. You know, but the Chinese, they know all of these moves.
And security services are concerned there are several other Chinese agents operating in Westminster.
Oh my God. I bet it was Wong Fei-hung. I bet it was Wong Fei-hung himself. Time-traveling Wong Fei-hung. Oh, my God, those Chinese.
Joining us now is the Business Secretary, Kemi Badenoch. We'd like to ask you in a moment about that.
I'm calling it Chinese spy. A Chinese spy on TV. They've got to have chosen her as a Chinese spy. No one would have guessed. Chinese spy.
Good news from BMW. But first of all, on China, you've been the Business Secretary over the past year. Obviously...
How much have you been spying for China during that time? Ask her the question, Ed. Ask her the question. Break her down, balls.
You talk to your colleagues a lot about China. Have you discussed China policy and the government strategy with Tom Tugendhat or Alicia Cairns, the head of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee?
Tugendhat is got intelligence links galore. He was like that candidate for the intelligence role when he was leadership contest for the Tory leadership recently. If it's anything about spies and stuff like that, they'll go through him because he's the one who's obviously chosen to do that role at the moment. This woman doesn't know nothing.
Or other Conservative members of the Conservative Research
Is Ed Balls going to finish asking this question?
That you've said to them have been passed to the Chinese over the last year?
No, certainly not. There is no risk. And I think that whatever activities that took place would have been...
That is exactly what a Chinese spy would say, Kemi. And I don't know if I've heard any Chinese name or any name that's so Chinese as Kemi Badenoch. Oh, that's Chinese as hell.
Before Tom Tugendhat was security minister. But I do think it's important to emphasize that this group which they had, the China Research Group, was not a pro-China group. This was a China skeptic.
They have to blur out the Tugendhat cameras. What's that? He's intelligence minister or whatever. Why would you have to blur him out? I don't understand.
In fact, you could say anti-China group.
It's the first time I've ever seen that.
A spy had managed to infiltrate that is extremely serious, but is not a reflection of pro-China policy being pushed forward in Parliament. It's actually a reflection of China being concerned about a lot of the skepticism that is in the UK Parliament. But I'm not concerned about...
They're spinning it! They're spinning it! They're spinning it! Concerned about anti-China feeling within Westminster is what she's trying to spin it as. Well, these spies, yeah, they're not doing anything that bad. No, they're just checking to make sure because they're a bit worried. That's what spies do, don't they? They infiltrate organizations to check to see what's going on because they're a little bit worried. That's what they do. Do you know why she's used that sort of rhetoric? Do you know why? Because they've already decided, obviously, and you'll hear it probably more across other places, not to do anything about the spies and to send them back to China because they got too many deals with China. You see, China can use their spies on us and we'll just bend over. We'll say, oh, we found them, and they're terrible. What were they looking for? Were they looking for state secrets? No, they were a tiny bit concerned about the direction of where politics is going. So why did they need to become spies to be quite concerned? What were they doing while they were concerned? No, they were just quite concerned. Just quite concerned.
Anything that I have said.
But in the first 6 months of your time as business secretary, when Tom Tugendhat was head of the China Research Group, and it seems
he was the security minister then. He was not head of the China.
Oh, it's our security, not intelligence minister, security minister. There's a lot. This Tugendhat thing sounds like he's in deep and he's in trouble. And it was obvious because of when the leadership election was happening, I looked through all of the candidates and it was like, he was like, okay, he works for the security services. He works intelligence. It's obvious he works intelligence. The Chinese would have known that too. They would have been able to do their analysis and gone, yeah, obviously he's the intelligence link. So who do you want to infiltrate? Tell me.
Before he was appointed security minister, while you were business secretary...
Just concerned.
No, he became security minister when I became trade secretary. So
there's a back and forth. See, there's a back and forth. They don't want this thing because if this thing means one thing, then that means another thing, doesn't it? That's what they're doing. They're avoiding it.
That the timelines just don't overlap.
And have you discussed any of these issues with Alicia Kearns over the last 9 months?
No.
Right.
Basically, they're looking for technical fouls rather than actual fouls. This is what Ed Balls is doing here. And this is much more like, does this feel like a news reporter? No, it feels like it's someone who's trying to get information who doesn't have those skills. And so basically is a really bad policeman. Or a policeman who's been off the beat for a while. That's what it comes across as.
Liz Truss appointed you as the business secretary. She's been critical of the Prime Minister for being too pro-China. In retrospect, was she...
Oh, my God. She was well pro-China, wasn't she? Oh, that's so stupid. Chinese pork markets, if I'm not wrong.
Is she right?
I don't think those criticisms are correct. The Prime Minister is not pro-China. The Prime Minister is taking very, very pragmatic steps to ensure that our relationship with China is one.
We're seeing, this isn't Tom Tugendhat, then this is why are this is the ambassador to China or the people who have been arrested? Are these the people who've been arrested for China, or is this just like merging out any Chinese face now? Is it like something like the IRA stuff from the 80s where you couldn't use their voices? You can't use Chinese faces if you talk about Chinese spies.
That deals with the...
No, you're blurring. Who's that guy? Hey, I know who that is. That's Roland Rat. That's Roland Rat.
The epoch-defining challenge. Which
Why all the blur?
But for all countries around the world. As Trade Secretary, I have to travel around the world. I speak to my counterparts in many other countries. You listen to conversations we had at the trade conference, at the G20, or even at the WTO. Many countries are concerned about China. They're concerned not just about spying, but about economic...
Spy meat? Did she just say spy meat? It sounded like she said they're not only concerned about spy meat. Go on, let's tell you again.
Or even at the WTO. Many countries are concerned about China. They're concerned not just about spying, but about economic coercion. They're worried about the dumping of goods in their economies, and we all work together to make those points.
So given those concerns...
Now there's a pressure, because, you know, there'll be loads of Chinese spies working in the UK, America, and other places, and vice versa. And they're very noticeable, because they're Chinese. So they stand out like a sore Chinese thumb. Everybody knows they're Chinese. And same in China, if you're Western, then you stand out like a sore thumb. So that's pretty normal. But we're coming up to a time where the West is almost at war with Russia. And China is the thing that will either change that or not. And of course, they're going to be on the Russian side. So this is, I think, Britain testing a little bit of the water as well with China. Oh, we'll have to send it back. This is background to try and like push away support for Russia as well. Probably elements of it.
You have negotiated Britain's joining the Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership. Yes. Australia, Japan are members. The Chinese are not members.
Wow, Britain are joining the Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership. Every NEWSPASTY, there seems to be a bit of something that I can't quite grasp. Like Britain in the Pacific. God, it's going to be so nicer when we're a Pacific Island country and they move us all the way over there. Because then what are we going to do? We're just going to hang around, you know, it'd be nice and warm all the time, cool breezes. We can go skydiving or whatever, you know, all of that sort of stuff like you do on holiday. Because we're in the Pacific now. We're in the Pacific. That's the way it works. Britain's in the Pacific. We decided it.
The Chinese, though, are saying they would like to join.
Yes.
Will you, as Trade Secretary, veto the Chinese joining that group? Because you have the power to do so.
Yes, you're right. We do have the power to do so. But that's obviously not news that I would be making just this morning on breakfast television. It's a serious decision that would need to be taken with our Trans-Pacific Partnership allies.
Trans-Pacific Partnership allies? What's that? China. No. It's all Chinese-aligned countries.
And we do have those conversations. There's not much more that I can say about that. But what I would say is...
So if the Japanese and the Australians say they don't want to veto, you won't veto, or could you decide to do it in Britain's national interest?
Just as I said, it's not a discussion that I can have here. Every single thing which I do will be for Britain's national interest, every single thing. But what we would say as a group in the Trans-Pacific Partnership is that all the countries would need to meet the very high standards of the group. And as you can see from the news that's come out this morning, those sorts of high standards don't appear to be met at the moment. So,
what do you mean high standards? Not spying on each other? You think that's real? You can't have MI6 and then pretend you don't spy on people. I mean, it is ridiculous. We are living in that is part of hypernormalization.
That's something for all of the members of the CPTPP to discuss. But this is something that is very serious. The Prime Minister has himself spoken to the Chinese Premier, so I don't want to downplay the significance of this incident in Parliament.
But if China commits to meeting those standards, then you would be willing to do a trade deal through the TPP
it's not about
with China.
Committing. It's not about committing. The standards have to be met. It took us several years to negotiate our entry into CPTPP. But as I said,
so you are going to veto China, or you're not going to veto China?
I'm not going to be making that decision on breakfast television. It's something which we have to discuss
You're not going to be vetoing.
With security services. It's something
you're not going to be vetoing
anything.
So bull. You're not going to be vetoing anything. Well, you want to go to war with China over two alleged spies? I don't think so.
We have to discuss with the leaders of other countries. But what I have said, which should be very, very clear and which should answer your question, is that every single thing we do will be done in Britain's interests.
You can see why people are a bit confused about what the government's attitude is.
Like moving British Isles to the Pacific.
With China, because if you can't tell us, it's very hard for us to work out what you're saying.
Whoa, but that's what you do. Look at his smile. He knows this is what I used to do as well. I do. So I'm just calling I'm a hypocrite.
It's quite easy for you to work out what I'm saying, Ed. I think you are being deliberately obtuse here.
No,
what I'm saying is what we're doing.
If you're going to veto a trade deal with China and you won't tell us.
And well, because
he's always deliberately obtuse because he knows she's not going to tell him, and so it looks like he's winning some sort of battle. What is this? Newsreading? No, this is politics. He's playing really crap parliamentarian politics on TV now. That's what he's doing. He's not a news reporter. It's parliamentarians batting off against each other.
First of all, we haven't even ratified our entry. How are we going to veto when we haven't ratified our entry? We need to make these decisions at the right time.
He's so happy with himself.
This is not the place nor the time to be discussing that. You can ask me about our relationship with China. But
I agree with her on that.
Entry into CPTPP,
but I also...
no other country does this on breakfast television.
I also think they should all be locked up.
And I'm not going to be doing that with you.
What you can talk to us about, of course, is the news that there are going to be 4,000 jobs in Oxfordshire for BMW, creating the next generation of electric vehicles there.
So she's got through the hard part, and now ITV are going to give her all of the bump. Oh, well done, you made set up a factory. Ha ha ha! Isn't this a success?
Can I just ask you, because I think that there's been a lot of talk about sort of net zero policies, the ULEZ that's been very controversial. This idea that we're going to now be going.
Ed Balls is all down with that and helped. I mean, he's early years young global leader. He's been through all of the training. He's nodding like, oh yeah, it's controversial. But what he does is support it.
Well, there's going to be no more diesel and petrol new cars sold in 2030. Is the government still committed to that? Because even the head of BMW said, actually, this government needs to rethink that policy. Toyota have said the same thing. The silent majority in the car industry don't think that electric vehicles are the way forward.
So first of all, I would say no. That is absolutely not what they're saying, and that's certainly not what they're saying to me. But let me start.
So she's saying that they're not saying that at all, and so she's just laying if that's true, and they're not saying that at all. Then the other woman is just laying narrative so that to set her up to bat it out of the park.